All right. Well, I'm Betsy Brennan. I think I know everybody here, so I'm really excited for today. I'm the president and CEO of the Downtown San Diego Partnership. Thank you for joining us and taking this time out of your afternoon for this special coming together of fellow members who have an interest in learning more about potentially serving on corporate boards. Some of you may already serve in some capacity. I think all of you serve in a lot of capacities, either with us or other organizations, and all of you have demonstrated an interest in the betterment of our community through your membership with the Downtown Partnership. Our mission at the Partnership is to support an economically strong and culturally vibrant city. This is one way that we can make that happen. We also believe strongly in an inclusive economy, and one way that happens is having many perspectives represented in areas of leadership and decision making. We know that getting more of your members involved in substantive ways is one of the easiest things we can do to provide you additional value while also contributing to our downtown community. Today, we look forward to providing actionable steps and information to help you in your professional development. The Chamber of Commerce has this initiative going on, and it's a larger, broad-based umbrella initiative. And then we have a small segmentation around corporate boards, and you're going to learn a lot more about that today. And to give us a little bit of history about Women of the Partnership, the initiative that inspired today's event, I would like to introduce the co-chairs, Marjorie Burchett, partner with CGS3 law firm, and Cynthia Morgan-Reed, CEO and partner of Vanced Law. So with that, Marjorie. Oh, hi, Marjorie. We're going to see Marjorie.
Actually,
and then we're going to go to Cynthia. Okay, good. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I'll say a quick hello, but I'm in a car with my family and 2 dogs, so.
So thanks, everyone. Thank you, Betsy. In 2016, the Downtown San Diego Partnership convened a dynamic group of women industry leaders to engage in thoughtful conversations and purposeful actions to empower women to take on leadership roles in both the workplace and community. Through this action, the Women of the Partnership Initiative was formed. Now, that's what happened, but the reality of that really was Chris Michelle and Marjorie Burchett basically got together and said, hey, we all play a lot every day with a lot of men. Why don't we try to play more with women as well and support women and grow women and have a special segment of the partnership to support and grow women's endeavors and careers and passions so we can support each other. Some past programming of the Women of the Partnership has included conversations about personal branding, enhanced communication, gender gaps, owning and advancing your career through self-advocacy, and talks with inspiring leaders in our region. We're looking forward to this next iteration of how we can take the incredible leadership represented within our members and give you the tools to get more involved. We hope you will support and become involved with the Women of the Partnership. I'm turning it back over to Betsy.
Great. Thanks so much, Cynthia. And thanks, Marjorie, and safe travels. And I know you're going to be listening in. And thank you so much for your work spearheading this initiative. I'm thrilled to start our conversation off today with the sponsor of today's forum, Cox Communications. In addition to making this event happen, the Cox team has also let us borrow our friend and board member and vice chair of our board, Chanelle Hawken, who is the Vice President of Government and Public Affairs, to add to this conversation today. In her role with Cox, Chanelle has developed a deep understanding and connection with public and private corporate government structures throughout the United States. Cox Enterprises is a privately held company with headquarters in Atlanta, which provides her a unique perspective on the role of corporate boards. She has also held executive level roles at the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce, the San Diego Airport Authority, and worked for the San Diego City Council President. Chanelle serves on the board of directors of Lead San Diego, California Cable Telecommunications, SDG Needs Community Advisory Council, and advises the Public Leadership Institute. She also serves as chair of events and membership here at the partnership and vice chair of our board, and is a member of the California State Bar Association. So with that, I really am thrilled to introduce my very good friend, Chanelle Hawken.
Thank you so much, Betsy. Again, it probably looks kind of fancy with my background, but I am on my way to Tucson with my family. So I am actually at a Jack in a Box right now, but I really wanted to participate. So this initiative just really is important to me. The goal of increasing the number of women to serve on all types of boards in California is really something I truly have always believed in supporting. I remember going through Lead Impact in 2009 and hoping one day, like if I got on the lead board, that was like, man, like I had made it in my career. It was such a huge goal of mine. So in my work at the chamber and being able to join that board, it just was and has been just so fulfilling to be able to help out other young women. I regularly mentor a lot of young professional women, and I have to say it's one of the most rewarding parts of my career. So you may wonder if you don't already, of course, this initiative is important for so many reasons. Today, the goal is to give an overview of the possible ways to get involved. And if somebody is inclined to give our support and tools over the next several months to make this quest for a corporate board a reality. This isn't just something we can snap our fingers and make happen. There are certainly some hurdles, and I think it will take a concerted effort. I know we're all busy, and it's important to give each other and yourself the time to grow, both personally and professionally. If you haven't heard, the state of California passed a law in 2018, it was Senate Bill 826, that mandated that every publicly traded corporate board headquartered in California is to have one female board member at least by 2020, and even more gender diversity by 2022. According to a California Partners Project report, this was commissioned by first partner Jennifer Siebel Newsom. It'll be released next week, and Fortune magazine has had an exclusive first look. The state law has already made a lasting impact. As of 2018 in California, having male-only boards, nearly 30% of public company boards consisted only of men. That figure has now gone to less than 3% of boards in the state. In numbers, that means that more than 660 women have already been added to corporate boards in California since 2018. This is a resounding success, but even more needs to be done to bring equity to the boardroom. I think there's going to be an article in our chat so you can see the links by Taylor. But as we know, there's still a high bar for women to serve, as the qualifications for each person are vetted on their merits, their career success, and other factors such as nonprofit board leadership and service to their community. Also, with the passage and signing of SB 979 last month by the governor, every publicly traded board headquartered in California must now have at least one board member from an underrepresented community by the end of 2021, and at least two or more board members by the end of 2022, depending on the board's size. The new law defines this requirement as anyone who self-identifies as one of the defined ethnic or sexual identity groups. For all the good intentions of both laws, you have to have measurable goals and ways to measure success. That is one of the reasons we sent out a survey along with the registration for this event with the demographics section. It will help us determine the assets we have through membership and connections we might already have for corporate boards and nonprofit board opportunities as well. So if you haven't filled that out, please fill out the survey. I think it's also going to be in the chat right there as well. Why is this gender and diversity balance important? Research has shown a broad collective of experiences leads to better decision making. And of course, having a perspective of half the world's population can obviously serve your corporation well. There is more to this than's really obvious though. Emerging research indicates companies with female directors improve from reputation, decrease the incidence of corporate fraud, improve earning quality, decrease corporate tax aggressiveness, and their firms are likely to have a significant corporate social responsibility and philanthropy response to natural disasters and societal issues. So we wanted to spend this time to give you an opportunity to reflect, ask questions, and have a dialogue on your role and interest to serve in a corporate board. And with that, I believe we are going to pass it over to Betsy to introduce Jessica Grounds.
Great, thank you so much. Before we get into our dialogue, which we are going to get into, I'm going to introduce Jessica Ground, who's the co-founder of Mind the Gap. This is really exciting, and you're about to find out why as I explain Jessica. So if any of you haven't gotten to know Jessica yet, I highly recommend it. Get a coffee with her, do a virtual meeting. She has such great energy and a really great asset for San Diego. So Jessica is the co-founder of Mind the Gap, and she's going to present on the findings and research regarding women on boards and commissions in the San Diego region based on data from the San Diego Chamber's All of Our Talent initiative. We're really supportive of the Chamber and their All Our Talent initiative, and this is one of the ways we can support what they're doing. We are fortunate to have Jessica's expertise in San Diego. She has devoted her professional career to empowering women to become leaders in every sector. With more than 16 years of developing trainings, securing philanthropic support for these endeavors, and encouraging and supporting women to run for office, Jessica has seen what preparation, data, and focus can yield for women. A native San Diegan, Jessica enjoyed a dynamic career in our nation's capital as an entrepreneur and founder for 2 major national nonprofits focused on advocating for women in leadership roles and running for elected office. Jessica has returned to San Diego, which is why I want you all to get coffee with her. And she is now here to found and lead Mind the Gap, a group of global experts in women's leadership and gender strategy. Her clients range from the San Diego Chamber of Commerce, the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce, to the first partner of California, Gretchen Siebel-Newsom, and the California Partners Project, which she was the author of that report along with her colleagues at Mind the Gap. So it's pretty exciting to have her on the call today, and UN Women and several private companies as well. We would also like to thank the Chamber's Elizabeth Fitzsimons and Board Chair Caroline Wynn for focusing on the needs of empowering and adding women onto boards and commissions. Jessica is here today to provide some additional context to the need for this service in our region. Jessica?
Awesome. Thank you, Betsy. That was so kind. I really appreciate it. It's so fun to get to know you and the great work you've been doing with the Downtown Partnership and see you as a woman leader in our city. And it's just really exciting to be back. As Betsy said, I was gone for a long time, and it's lovely to come back to my home and see how San Diego has changed, and also how important I see California taking the importance of bringing women into leadership roles. So I'm so excited to be here with all of you to share a little bit about the work I've done. Chanelle, thank you for talking about our California Partners Project report. I did very gratefully get to lead the work with the first partner of California, Jennifer Siebel-Newsom, on the adoption of Senate Bill 826 and the quick movement that companies have made to add women to their boards, which is really exciting. But really what I'm here to share with you today and talk more specifically about San Diego is that, as Betsy has shared, the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce is doing an amazing project that I'm helping them to lead called All Our Talent, Women on Boards and Commissions. And we launched the project earlier this year. And what was really cool about the project was, of course, this great focus on women on boards and commissions. We are the first state in the whole country that has required women on boards and commissions. Never before has a state done this. We have a lot of precedent around the world. Other countries have instituted board requirement, gender diversity for company boards, countries like Germany, Sweden, all over really, a lot of the world, not just in Europe, and for women's political leadership. So how neat is it that California has now taken the lead to recognize that we really weren't moving on the diversity needle. And so the project that I'm leading with the Chamber of Commerce, we designed a report, and I want to share a little bit about the findings. The goal was, hey, listen, we don't have enough women on company boards, both private and public. This law specifically is about public company boards, but we have lots of private boards, especially here in San Diego. And then we have nonprofit boards and city and county commissions. So what's really cool about All Our Talent is we're really looking to move the needle, increase the number of women on all of these different kinds of boards. I think with our work together with the partnership, we're as Betsy has shared, I think the focus really is going to be on company boards, but I wanted to give you guys that overview. Taylor, can you share the PowerPoint I have? If you guys can see, I want to share a couple of numbers with you. When we launched the report in June of this year, as I just shared, we looked at these 5 different areas, and you can go to that second slide, these 5 different kinds of places that we as San Diegan can serve on boards. In San Diego, we have 88 public companies. In the state of California, there are 650 public companies that are subject, particularly to this legislation that we talk about, Senate Bill 826, that must have a certain number of women on their boards. So right here in San Diego, we have 88 companies. Many of the companies here continue to need to add women to boards. And in fact, I do have the most recent numbers because I was able to access them through my good friend Annalisa Barrett, whose report is coming out very soon from KPMG. But we are going to need to add 115 board seats here in San Diego will need to be filled by women by the end of next year. So we have a really big opportunity right here in San Diego to get more women on our boards here in our San Diego companies. What our report found was in San Diego, board seats are only held, 23% of board seats are held by women, right? So we have a long way to go still to get to parity. We often talk about this critical mass number when we're talking about boards. So boards are made up for the most part, the boards we look at on public companies are between the size of 3 people, and you guys probably know this, and 15. So right, there's a huge range in the size of these boards of directors. And what we often don't see is critical mass, which means around 30% of that board is made up of a certain group, for example, women. So we don't have critical mass. We only have 18% of San Diego companies have critical mass. So a lot of them just have one woman. So there's a real need to bring more women. And I will say what we know from my research and research that has been done previously on California, San Diego often is sort of lowest in the number of women on boards compared to other regions in the state. For example, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Sacramento, and is sort of the bigger sort of city hubs. We tend to be kind of at the smaller end. Private company boards, even worse. Let's go to the next slide. We don't have a ton of information because, for example, the research I was able to do for the first partner is based on Security and Exchange Commission data that's shared with the federal government about the composition of boards. They're not required, by the way, to report the demographic information. We had to go to the bios and figure out the pronoun use. It's very, very difficult research. But what we do know from research that's been done, for example, by Him for Her and Kellogg School of Management, is that private company boards are only about 7% women on board. I mean, it's really bad. The numbers are quite low. And in fact, the research piece that they came out with just at the end of last year found that 60% of private companies had no women on their boards. So when we're talking about what the gender gap is, it's even worse for private companies. And it's partly because they don't have to report anything. They're much often smaller, as we know, family-run companies. But a place that I think, in particular, the partnership can really work with the chamber on this initiative is to think about how we can identify opportunities for women to serve on private company boards here in San Diego. Okay, let's talk about a couple other areas. I know that we talked about nonprofit boards as sometimes being a stepping stone to working on a corporate board. I did our research piece, next slide, Taylor, thank you. We looked at 51 of the largest nonprofits here in San Diego by budget. And what we found was the boards were about 41% women and 59% male. So they were better than the corporate boards, but still not at parity. And then one of the big imbalances we saw was that much more often we see male board chairs compared to female board chairs. So 34 of those 51 companies were male board chairs and 14 were female chairs. Numbers are really important, everyone. We all know this is why I'm so grateful to the chamber for really recognizing the need to do this baseline report, which is available and I think was shared by the team. So you can look more deeply, not just at the numbers, but some more of the context of this report. But the numbers are the beginning, right? They tell the story of where we are and give us an opportunity to figure out how we measure against that and see change happen. So for example, on nonprofit boards, women might be a higher percentage, but maybe they don't really have voice to actually shape the conversation or have influence. So we need to look beyond the numbers to that part as well. And that's something we need to really think about. And that's something I do in my work a lot, is looking at the culture of organizations. Do women really have the ability to have a say? And then lastly, what's really cool about the project with the chamber, all our talent, we'll do our last slide, Taylor, or maybe second to last slide, is the commissions. And I kind of glanced at the talking points, Betsy. I hate to steal your thunder if you're going to mention that, but I saw your report that there was a lot of interest among your community in serving on these kind of city and county commissions, which is so great. So when we look at San Diego, the city commissions are pretty gender balanced. As you can see, 47% are made up of women compared to 53% men. But the county commissions definitely can use a lot of work. We're about 35% women. But overall, we often have this great place of city and county government commissions that are looking for new talent, looking for new opportunity. And so we're excited to start tracking the interest and the expansion of women's voices on these particular boards and commissions. So that's the last sort of section that we looked at. Lastly, I'll just share my last slide just in terms of our vision at the Chamber and what we're wanting to do and how we want to partner with the Downtown Partnership is we are really looking to identify networks and opportunities. So for example, we're partnering with a number of different groups where they have different networks of companies and different networks of organizations that are looking to diversify their talent. And so we're hoping to collect, for example, each partner could, in theory, so for example, your wonderful organization could identify, have a goal of this in this next 6 months to identify 15 companies looking for increasing the number of women on their board. And so with that, we could work with our organization to identify then the talent to serve on those boards. So we're looking for partnerships to identify the opportunities and also the talent. And so the Chamber and the All Our Talent Project will be launching a database. It will likely come after the election, but what we're going to have is an opportunity for our partners and interested individuals in our project to actually be a part of this very exciting database that will allow for you to create your own profile and be available and seen by companies and organizations looking to bring more women on their boards. So that's going to be coming out in November. And I would just like lastly to say it's really important to me, and I think to all of you, that we really, as we shape the increase of diversity on all of our organizations, that we're really mindful of communities, women of color in particular, but groups that often aren't engaged, right? Are often, we have so much great, rich talent here. And a lot of times I think there's that tendency you go to who is typically in those leadership roles. So we're very mindful that we are partnering with groups that have access to talent and women that are always wanting to serve, they just don't know what to do next. And so that's part of my goal in identifying partners and to really build this talent and database. But as I said, we're really excited at the Chamber to launch the database in November. And again, work with all of you on this great initiative that you have to be a part of this bigger effort in the region to increase the number of women serving in these really important bodies. So with that, I'm happy to share more, Betsy, up to you how you want to do this, but I would love to have a dialogue, a strategy session, if you will. And I'm just grateful that you invited me to be a part of this. So thank you.
Sure, absolutely. I have just like about 1 more minute and then let's get into it. Yeah, so as Jessica said, 115 board seats in San Diego alone for women need to be filled. And that doesn't even account for the whole state of California. I want to thank Jessica for being here today. This is significant, this effort led by the Chamber and Jerry Sanders, because we're the only region doing this. You know, this is a collaborative effort happening in this metro area. It's not happening in LA, it's not happening in San Francisco. So let's leverage each other and collaborate and do this. There's other groups like the San Diego Bar Association and Lawyers Club, and they're all going to be sort of involved. And that's why we are going to focus on corporate boards for our section, but it doesn't mean you can't go to any of the other groups if you want to be involved in those other areas as well. And just some high-level feedback from our survey: 92% of the people that responded already sit on a nonprofit board or city or county commission. 38% are interested in serving on a public company board. 46% are interested in serving on a board or advisory group. 38% are interested in serving on a nonprofit board. 38% are interested in serving on a San Diego City board. 62% are interested in serving on a San Diego County Board or Commission. So that's an interesting statistic that we can get into, you know, in the dialogue too, because, you know, what our idea is doesn't mean we have to only do our idea. I want to hear from all of you. There is a high interest, 77%, from individuals who currently or have previously served on a board or commission that would be willing to mentor, be a resource, and promote other women seeking to do the same. For instance, Malin Levine, many of you know Malin, she's on our board. She is the chair of the Urban Discovery Schools, a public nonprofit charter school located in the heart of the Idea District in East Village in downtown San Diego. And she's actively recruiting right now for a couple board seats. So if you are interested in charter schools, public school, Urban Discovery Academy, please get in touch with me and I'll put you in touch with Malin. But that's the kind of thing that can happen when we actually have these conversations. With that, I'm going to start the questions. Well, I'm just gonna open it up for the questions. And if you have questions, it's a small enough group. You can either put them in the chat or you can just unmute yourself and we'll have a dialogue and see how that goes. So are there questions for Chanelle or Jessica or me that we can get started with?
Betsy, I'll start if that's okay. So,
sure, please do.
You know, I was thrilled to see that we had such a high percentage of respondents to the poll say that they were already on an existing board. And I think a lot of those boards were also stated that they were nonprofit boards. And that's sort of the situation with women generally, right? Like I've served on a nonprofit board, obviously, and most of us here on this call apparently have as well. And that's great. And this is why this conversation and what Jessica is doing and the chamber is doing is so vitally important, because it's super to start on the city and county level. I have also been on a board at the city level. Then it's really wonderful to be on a nonprofit board. The real power and what we are so fixated on as women and getting ourselves with support for other women here is on those corporate boards, right? That's where high level decisions are being made, and there's the opportunity for ourselves as women to have our voices heard, grow our career, and obviously make change. And so I think it's really important for us to understand sort of those three tiers, if you will, or three tranches, because I'm glad that our conversation, and this is obviously at the direction of the Women's Initiative from the partnership, is to focus on those corporate boards and hopefully get people's participation on this call and our friends and colleagues on those boards based on the state law as well, because that's where we as women need our voices heard. And I think it's really important that we are focusing on that. So Jessica, to that end, I just wanted to ask, I know because the chamber is spearheading this, will we be able to understand when that database is open and when members of the partnership or in the public at large can go in and start profiling themselves through that database?
Yeah, so, and I just want to recognize Jamie Bradford is on the call. She is the Chief Operating Officer for the Chamber and has been working with me. Obviously, she's the reason with Jerry that this is even happening, and it's wonderful to have a city take the lead like this. Yeah, great question. Thank you, Cynthia. So yes, so and this is partly what we're designing here with this partnership with all of you. The partnership with the partnership is to say, how do you all want to be involved specifically in terms, I'd really love to see a quantitative goal that the partnership has where you're helping to funnel great talent that we want to see to serve on boards and commissions. The database is going to be launched in likely November because of just post-election, things like that. But yes, the neat part of it, as I was explaining, is it will provide an opportunity for women to fill out a profile. It has ability to sort of screenshot off of your LinkedIn profile. It pulls information off your LinkedIn and actually have this database. And what we're working on a partnership with that organization that actually does this, is really trying to increase the number of the diverse group of folks that are on boards all over the country. But we're really going to build this for San Diego. There's no presence for San Diegans in this particular data set. And so the All Our Talent initiative is going to be that driving force. So we'll both be able to tag women that come through our database, and also the companies. And I think that's something I don't want to miss, right? We know we have amazing talent, but we also need to know where the opportunities lie. And the extent to which we can encourage companies to sign up and say, hey, yeah, I'm actually looking for diverse talent. and then they'll actually be able to create a profile and identify the talent as well. So that's what's so exciting about that database piece of it. I think the database piece is only one part of the project, though. I think we need to try to encourage companies to be more vocal about the fact that they're looking for talent. Another thing I think would be neat, and we'll see how this develops with my All Our Talent initiative, but to really highlight female leaders in companies that should be serving on boards. Because as I talked about, I mean, you guys, the numbers are huge, right? 665 seats in the state specifically need to be filled by women. I mean, that is an opportunity. This is public company boards, and I get that's a certain level of experience, but we have amazing talent here. And why don't we have San Diego women serving on these boards? You know, let's highlight those women. So that's something else I just want to encourage you to think about as you design exactly how you want to be involved. But yes, the database will be available as a partner to our initiative. And I'm hoping other initiatives. We're designing what we're going to do into next year just now, so we'll have more exciting things to share as the All Our Talent initiative moves forward. But I think the first step for the partnership to be involved is to really think about how you might design an initiative to identify these women, and also some of the companies to join these efforts.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jessica. And thank you, Jamie, for being here. And I apologize for not recognizing you. You were in my talking points. Can you talk, I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but I, from time to time, have that imposter syndrome, right? So every time I've taken a new job, partnership, I'm like, I'm not applying for that job. I'm not qualified. First day at work, I have no idea what I'm doing. I've always been a VP, writing stuff and supporting people. And how do you lead? And this is my whole career's been like that. So I've never felt like I was right. I never felt like I was good enough. And I still struggle with those issues. So I've never wanted to apply for even a state board or a corporate board. And I don't know if anyone wants to speak to that. Like if you're seeing that around the state and strategies.
So Betsy, this is Chanelle. I mean, I would say just, serving on the selection committee for the Public Leadership Institute in San Diego, which is under the chamber. And, they look for diverse folks, bipartisan, to serve on boards and then run for office. And I saw that so much. I would say a good example would be a female partner in a law firm who's amazingly brilliant, who, comes in her interview and we're like expecting that she's going to want to be a, city council person. And she's like, well, I might want to be on, my school board eventually, or maybe I'll start with my HOA board. But I tend to see that a lot, where female candidates are well qualified for things that are at a much higher level than what they're seeking to do. So, I mean, I don't necessarily have a lot of answers for that, but it seems like the men that come in are ready to, run for Congress, and they've never actually even gone to a community, planning meeting or anything like that. So I certainly do see that with the female leaders that I've interacted with in San Diego to a certain extent.
This is something that we address in our advanced programming too over at LEAD. And I think, Chanelle, you were probably on the steering committee for that, the creation of that program. And I know Caitlin's been through it, but it's something we see often, obviously not just with boards and commissions, but Betsy, as you've said, just really having the confidence to step out and put yourself out there and realize that you have the skill set and it is needed. And so, that's why I think this group is so valuable too, because we as women need to do that for each other and remind each other to speak up and step out and support one another. I know when Betsy came back, there was a group of women, certainly, that we all definitely saw you as a chief executive. I mean, you were with Council President Peters, and we all thought this is perfect for you. There were so many people that saw you in that role, Betsy. So I appreciate you sharing that vulnerability, because I just wanted to share back that it certainly isn't the perception of everyone around you, but I think that happens so much for all of us. And so it's really important that it just highlights the work here and why it is so important.
So
And I know Jessica has seen that too throughout her career, and it's part of why, you know, it has become a career for her to push women forward.
I have a question for Jessica, Jamie, and Betsy. Do we know how many public companies are represented on the chamber board, on the downtown partnership board, and a corollary would be on EDC board? Because I think that's a tremendous start. And there would have to be sort of a lot of side work, because people often in public say, this is a great idea, this is wonderful, but then to get the commitment where it actually takes some action and movement on the part of the corporations that are actually engaged on boards that have women on their nonprofit board, but is a good sort of first dip to be able to see what's available.
Yeah, and for sure, we don't right now, but we are going to. So this is the kind of thing we need to understand what kind of data we need to be collecting so that our next meeting can be relevant and give us the tools that we need, but we don't right this moment.
And I think to your point, Rana, we're looking at public companies that are willing to step up and say, take this challenge with us. And we all share the three entities you mentioned, you know, SDG&E as a member. Right. And Caroline, of course, led this initiative as, you know, her chairmanship with us. And I'm confident that they're going to be ready to step up and do that. And I think we can all do that collaboratively, but we are going down that path. So you kind of hit it on the head with that question.
Mm-hmm. And then I think sort of the natural extension from that is, let's say, South County EDC, because they may have some military contractors that are public companies on their board. There might be North County Chamber, you know, some other entities that we can pull from.
Yeah, Rana, the targeting, I'm sorry to interrupt anybody, that's a really good point. I think our ability to target based on the data we have. I do have a breakdown of industries for San Diego in terms of public companies. Almost 50% are biotech and life science, which isn't shocking. And many of those groups aren't, I don't know how involved they are with the partnership or EDC, but I know not a lot of them, since they have their biocom and their own sort of association, sometimes they're not as involved. But I think that targeting piece is good, and I will be the best I can be. I'm not sure how much data I'm going to be able to get, but I will, as much as I can target and help these initiatives target who to go to, because they need to add women, is a good point, is a really important thing.
Jessica, this is Chanelle, and that's exactly what I was going to say. Is I think I've had these discussions with, you know, Tony Atkins, Jen Lassar, others, and the life science part of it is a big one. And I think what makes it harder for women, and it may be an education opportunity for us, is that a lot of the qualifications are very, you know, tech related, right? Or, you know, engineering requirements. And so we were just discussing some of the maybe education on some of these companies of the value to their company of somebody that's maybe in public relations or does crisis communications or government affairs, because they don't tend to pick those type of female, you know, in those industries. And that's what tends to be, you know, represented in a lot of our leadership, I would say locally in some of the San Diego business boards by women.
Chanelle, it's such a great point. And actually, I want to highlight something that I put in, that I highlighted in our San Diego Chamber report that just speaks to that. I 100% noticed with my conversations around COVID about how much the process of dealing with this pandemic has sort of re-emphasized the gaps that boards have in some of their thinking, and even executive leadership more broadly, not just in the board level. So it'd be like any leadership, where they were deficient, just to your point, in understanding how to deal with crisis, understanding how the workforce was impacted. A lot of what I do is actually work with companies to figure out how women and men women might not feel like they're as successful in their organizations. And COVID has really changed it, in some ways for the good, because of our ability to work from home. And that was so much of the flexibility piece that women, even more so than men, needed to see. But there's a lot more skepticism, I would say, from women and impact on their lives around what has happened. And so unless you have that knowledge point at the board level and at that really high level, you're missing some really big gaps. And that actually, I think that pitch is not only, it's like an educational dynamic that we could do as part of this partnership. We have to educate, in part, these companies and help them to say, hey, we're coming alongside you, right? We want to make you even more effective. And so we have all the data and the research behind us, and even more so with COVID. But I think that's a part that maybe the partnership can play also around that. I think that's really smart, and it's needed.
So Jessica, this is Marjorie. Hopefully you can hear me okay. My question is educating ourselves about what the skill set is, so we all get past the imposter syndrome and understand more specifically what's expected of a public company board member. And I don't know how to go about that, but that would be kind of my question. What exactly, is it the substantive expertise? Am I never going to be on a biotech board if I don't have a life science background? Or, like you're saying, are there other skills that might be relevant?
So it's a great question, Marjorie. One recommendation I have, there's an organization called 2020 Women on Boards that is based out of Los Angeles, but it's a national organization. Betsy Brennan started it in 2010, and she specifically focuses on board readiness for women in public sector boards. She does an online training. I've participated in it. The team at California Partners Project has done it, that I work with the First Lady on, and it's very kind of nuts and bolts around how you prepare your CV for board leadership, specifically for public companies. I think that it helps you to understand what they're looking for. I will say, from what I understand, and this is the difficult part for public company boards, I don't think a database is going to help perfectly the public company boards, because it's so much of getting inside of that network. Typically what happens for public company boards is the board discusses, they have a nominating and governance committee. That's one of the 3 committees that are required by the Securities and Exchange Commission that board members sit on. That committee is charged with bringing on new board members. They often work with their network. It's not any thing dissimilar, frankly, from sometimes what a nonprofit board is. I ran and started a nonprofit, and how did we start our board? We used our network, right? So they do the same thing. And so so that process, then what they do is, after they look at a list of people they've thought of within their own network, they typically go to a search firm to augment that with maybe women. So there's a couple avenues into these into these public boards. One, again, I think that Jamie mentioned really well, there's public pressure right now and there's legislative pressure right now because of this law that passed here, where companies are paying attention a little bit more. I think it's getting directly into some of these board members. So who currently sits on boards, maybe trying to identify some of the women here in San Diego who do, maybe they'd be more of a listening voice to say, okay, we really want to help, make this more understand this process better, and for you to consider women. So I think we need a little bit more access to those boards, because right now that's really the challenge with public company boards. Private company boards are probably not that different, except they don't have any reporting requirement. It's really identifying those board members. And that's why I think for our initiative, we really need to try to get a hold of these companies and say, what's the best vehicle for us to understand better what your board process is. But again, I would recommend Betsy's training. I think that the chamber, as they always do so well, continue to think about how they're going to build support for training and supporting women and everyone in the city to kind of understand these dynamics differently. So I think we're definitely talking about adding more board readiness training with the chamber's work at LEAD. And I can also share, actually there's a good resource page I will share of some other organizations that do board training. I think we often train ourselves to death, though, as women. So I do want to say, I think there's a limit to that. I think if you really don't know enough, do one of them, but then it's really about that network and presenting yourself in a way that shows yourself to be ready for that board. So those are some thoughts.
Yeah, I was just going to pipe in as well to Marjorie's comment and the imposter syndrome discussion that, all the boards I've ever been on, I've been on them because somebody asked me, and almost always it was a woman who asked me to be involved. And so I think it's great that with our survey and with what the chamber is doing, we're going to have those resources because according to Betsy's statistics, 77% of us responding to that survey are willing to mentor others. And so I'm happy to talk to anyone who wants to be on a city or county board. I have that experience. I'm happy to talk to anyone who has been on a nonprofit board. I have that experience. I don't have the experience of a public or a private company. That's the experience I desire now, but I'm okay with that because I have these other experiences that I think have prepared me. And to Jessica's comment, or actually I think it was Chanelle's comment, plenty of men are willing to go in and do stuff without any experience. So I think we have to put on our big girl panties and be willing to do the same and not wait for someone to invite us. And this is why I think this discussion is vitally important because we have to get ourselves into that database. And, more importantly, what I was really surprised as we were preparing for this topic to learn from Jessica was we really need to outreach to our clients, our colleagues, our husbands, whoever it is, that are involved in these companies here in San Diego and let them know the importance and let them know what the chamber is doing so that they can connect to the chamber and be a company that's willing to put women on their board. I mean, they're going to have to comply with the law. That's great. But the sooner they comply, the better it will be. And they don't have to just comply with the bare minimum. They can go above and beyond that. So there's probably going to be enough of us women who are going to show some interest. But until we get those boards to participate and know that we're out there and willing and able to be involved with them, this won't go as far as fast as we all would like it to do. So I'll make sure that we're outreaching to those people we know as well.
That's great. That's great, Cynthia. And I will just say, there is still that misnomer out there that there aren't enough women that have the right credentials and background to be on these boards, and that's just not true, right? I mean, I unfortunately I hear that more from the company side than obviously people like than I'd like to. And so the way we tackle that is to say, for example, along with us building this database, which we are for all our talent, we also can say, well, what are you looking for? What is your criteria? Is there a specific kind of piece? And I would say for sure for those biotech firms, that's especially the case. They often have these very specific roles each of the board members play. So it's a combination of us educating them to say, is that really what you need? Is that all of what you need? Are you missing anything? And okay, well, great. Let's think about a woman that fits in that particular, with that skill set. That could also be a place we, help to really be intentional and strategic. I think that's what's needed at this point to really start to move the needle forward.
All right. Well, I mean, we want to put a sort of a bow around this so we know where we're going and what we're going to be doing going forward. So I just want to thank all of the speakers and all of you for participating today. And the goal of the session was to provide an overview and context for the focus on putting more women on corporate boards. And we got some information from all of you about what other data we would need to go forward to make this happen. So that was really, really helpful. And if there's interest, we'd like to expand this conversation in January and help walk interested members through the process of positioning themselves for readiness to serve on a corporate board. We want to take an idea and make it real and actionable. The more San Diego women represented on corporate boards, and any boards and commission for that matter, the better and deeper their understanding of our region and how to support our city and state. So we're imagining that session would include everything from building your board bio and resume, and there may be something where we send people to this women to the boards. There may be something with the chamber that is developed, because this is all getting developed real time. So this is why the input that you're giving is so important as we go forward. And we're imagining that we may even do sort of really granular networking, looking at different boards, and do you know this person? Do you know that? I mean, it's going to take some of that kind of work for us to be successful. And to prepare for the next session, we're going to be doing things like preparing your board bio and your resume and sort of who do you actually know that serves on a corporate board, looking at your LinkedIn and starting to really go down that path. And we're going to include an interest form in the follow-up email with all of these links, and see if people, either you or you forward it to other women and men, because men can be part of this effort too. We have one man on today, Sam Ramirez. I'm really happy to have Sam here today, not to single you out, but it's going to take even more men supporting this effort for this all to be successful. So that's kind of where we're going with this effort. And I wanted to thank Caitlin Payne. It says Phillips, but her married name is Caitlin Payne. Taylor Stahl, Sarah Brothers, and Sam Ramirez from our team, who have been helping try to get this formulated. Because when you start a new program, and Marjorie and Cynthia know this, it takes iterations, and we appreciate their patience as we try to get this set up. We appreciate the Chamber's willingness to let us participate, and we really appreciate Jessica being here because she's an amazing subject matter expert, and then Chanelle from our board leadership to make this all happen. So want to just thank you all for being here today. We're going to send the follow-up survey, not survey, but interest list, and please give us your comments, because we want it to be real. We don't want to waste your time. And what kind of goal are we going to have? Are we going to have one woman that we want on a corporate board? Are we going to have 15? And so we need to put some goals around this effort as we move forward. So with that, I just wanted to say, stay safe, have a wonderful weekend, and we look forward to seeing all of you really soon. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.